Hello guys, how are you?
I'm Hardeep Singh. Welcome back to your own YouTube channel. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test, and speaking, you can guesswork. Please, guys, participate in everyday listening and reading practice test to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Press the bell icon for the upcoming notifications. Don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams.
Part 1.
You will hear two students who have just returned to university after their summer vacation. First, look at questions 1 to 4.
Hi, Louise. How was your summer vacation?
Oh, fantastic. I only got back from Europe yesterday.
Wow, that sounds exciting.
Yes, it was. How was your holiday?
Pretty quiet compared with yours. I just stayed around Cambridge, but we're planning to go to Europe at the end of next term.
Oh, you'll have a great time. I really recommend it. How are you going to get around?
Well, we've thought about renting a car. Flying is far too expensive. What did you do?
We bought Eurail tickets and travelled around Europe by train.
Was it expensive?
No, not really. It cost us £203 for a Eurail Pass youth ticket.
I've heard of Eurail. What did that include?
Well, you get unlimited train travel in and between 17 European countries. It lasted for a month.
Gee, for £203. That sounds reasonable. Did you visit all of the 17 places?
Yes, all except for Ireland. We couldn't really understand why Ireland was included on the pass, but England wasn't.
Yes, that seems a bit strange. Did it include the trip from London to Paris in the Channel Tunnel?
No, unfortunately we had to pay extra for that train. But we did get a discounted fare because we're students.
Were there any other restrictions on the tickets?
Well, if you want to pay more or less money, you can choose another plan. There are 15 and 21-day plans or 2 and 3 month plans. The only restriction for the youth ticket is that you have to be under 26.
That suits my friends and me. None of us are 26 yet. We went to school together.
Oh, you really have to do it. It's safe and easy and a great way to see the countryside. The weather was fantastic, and so were the people.
It sounds great.
Before the conversation continues, read questions 5 to 10.
What was the best part of your trip?
The trains really gave us the freedom to plan our own holiday. We went to lots of places which were out of the way and met lots of local people. You know, small rural towns where trains are still an important form of transport.
We'd like to meet the local people. Did you do that easily?
Yes, the trains in Europe aren't like the commuter trains in London. People like to talk and have a chat on trains in Europe.
That's nice.
Yes, the train times were okay as well. Sometimes we had to get up early to catch the trains, which were crossing into another country. But most of the time we were satisfied with the timetables. Very punctual.
Should we take an alarm clock?
Well, I would. Having an alarm clock made us sleep more comfortably. We knew that we'd wake up on time.
And were the trains safe? Did you travel at night?
Lots of students travelled at night because it saved having to pay for accommodation.
I hadn't thought of that.
Well, lots of others have thought of it. We preferred to stay in local pubs or student hostels because you could mix with the locals. The night trains were filled with British students.
It sounds as if you had a very positive experience. Is there anything you'd recommend we take or do?
Let me see. I can certainly tell you what not to take or do. Don't take much luggage. There just isn't very much room in the trains for big suitcases. A backpack or 2 small bags is better than 1 big bag. That way you can also get on and off the trains easily too.
I'll remember that. My mother always says to pack 1 week before you go on vacation and then take half of it out the night before you leave.
That's good advice, especially when you're riding on cramped trains. The other thing is to be careful with your valuables. Lots of students had money and passports stolen, especially at night.
Did you have anything stolen?
No, but we met lots of people who did have things stolen. We all had money belts under our jackets.
I'll have to buy one of those.
Yes, you should. Or you can borrow mine if you like.
Oh, thanks. That'd be good.
The only other thing I'd advise you to do is to make sure you spend a reasonable amount of time in each country. We found that lots of students travelled too quickly and they didn't have enough time to meet the locals and enjoy the food and the culture.
How long do you think you need in each country?
I can't say. It'll depend on who you meet and what you like to do. And, of course, the weather. It was so warm and sunny in some beachside places that we stayed for 4 or 5 days. In other towns, if it was very quiet or boring, we just stayed overnight.
I guess that's what's great about the train. You can come and go as you please.
Exactly. And it's cheaper and much more relaxing, not to mention safer. I don't think I could get used to driving on the right-hand side of the road.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
You'll hear Diane Kelly, the admissions officer at Central City University, talking to a group of newly arrived international students. Before you listen, look at questions 11 to 16.
For those of you I haven't met, my name is Diane Kelly, the International Admissions Officer at Central University. Today I'm here to explain some of the student support services which you might like to access during your courses. The first thing I'd like to make clear is that you are all entitled to this help. All you need to do is ask for it. You have full access to all of the regular university facilities here and additional services set up exclusively for international students. These services are grouped under 4 main areas of responsibility: academic support, librarian services, administrative services, and those provided by the Student Union. The staff in academic support services is qualified to assist you in course selection, content description, and explanation of assessment criteria for individual subjects. We also have an international student advisor who is there to help students from non-English speaking backgrounds. All of you have achieved the English requirements for entry to your particular courses, but it is possible at some stage that you will need language support. The International Student Advisor is there for that purpose. Be warned though, he is very busy at the end of semesters and he won't write your assignments for you. If you need assistance with general study skills, the International Student Advisor will probably direct you to our Library Services staff. Library Services is made up of 3 departments: Research and Resource, Study Skills, and the Student IT department. The Study Skills department is very active in promoting small learning and study groups. They will gladly help you to join one of these groups by matching your needs with other students. After you get your student cards, the Student IT department will arrange your email access and passwords for the university computers. You do need to have your student card first, so don't go there without it. Student cards are issued by administration officers in the Administration Student Services area. A lot of you are in homestay at present, but if you want to move into more independent style accommodation, see the housing officer at the administration building. Don't be too optimistic though. Good, cheap accommodation close to the university is in high demand. It can be found, but we advise you to see the accommodation officer early. We also have a student employment officer and, of course, the homestay officer, whom you would have met already. The university bookshop, and most importantly our international department, is in the administration building, so make sure that you come and see us if you have any questions about your passports or visas. The student union is also very active and provides some great services. For example, if you have any personal or financial problems while you're here, the student union offers a student counselling service. You will need to make appointments to see a counsellor. If you feel that you're not being treated fairly by another student or lecturer or university staff member, you might like to access the Equal Opportunity Service offered by them. They also run various social and sporting clubs and activity programs which I'd encourage you to sign up for.
Before the final part of the talk, look at questions 17 to 20.
Obviously, you'll need to know where these services are. We're currently in the Grand Hall. Now, if you have a look on your campus map, the library services are, of course, in the library, which is over to my right, just between the outdoor sporting facilities and Hawkins Student Car Park. The Student Union building is also in that same direction, but it's in front of the car park. For those of you who will be travelling by bus, the university bus stop is just outside the library. The administration building is over to my left, between the International Centre and the post office. Most of you have been to visit us already. Even though the administration staff look after the bookshop, it's in the same building as the post office, just behind the student refectory. If you come to the administration building, we'll show you where it is anyway. All of the academic staff are found in their particular faculty buildings, which you'll get to know very well. The Career and International Student Advisors are in a small building behind the International Centre, in between the Engineering and the Arts block. It's really quite easy to find your way around the campus, and most staff and students are more than willing to give you directions. Now, we're just going to have a short break with some tea and biscuits at the back of the hall. So, if you'd like to stand up and come down.
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
You will hear two students giving the results of a survey they conducted. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25.
Right, now it's time for Sylvie and Daniel to give us the results of their survey into the study skills course that some of you did last term.
Thanks, Mr. Driver. Shall I start, Daniel?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Well, as you know, some students in our year did the study skills course run by the English department last term.
It was interesting because it was completely voluntary. It wasn't a compulsory component of the exam course or anything that we need in that way. But Mr. Driver thought it would be a good idea, that it would help with our other work.
Yeah. So after the course finished, Daniel and I decided to review it, ask students what they thought about it, as part of our education assignment.
Yeah.
So this is how we did it, our study method. At first, we thought about interviewing students face-to-face, but we have so much other work, and we knew it'd be quicker to use email and just send out a questionnaire.
Though we also had to write that.
Yes, and this method does rely on students filling it in and sending it back, but the response rate was pretty good.
Yeah, 70%, I think.
Okay, so first of all, 33 students signed up for the course.
And we did 12 sessions over the term, and they took place every Monday morning.
A good start to the week, I thought.
Yeah, and the rest of the week, we could put things into practice.
So, what did we expect?
For me, I expected it to be useful for all my subjects. Things like philosophy.
Yeah, that's what Mr. Driver had said.
And I was right. I feel more able to deal with difficult texts now. You know, like the ones we have in economics.
You feel you can do it. Yeah, I think other people found that it actually made them want to read more frequently and read books outside the course list.
If you've got time. As for our teacher on the course, Jenny, everyone felt she was really good. We learned a lot from her. Not because she set a lot of homework or anything like that.
The thing people said was that she gave us fascinating articles and ideas to work with, some of them. Well, we were quite happy to carry on looking at them at home.
Yeah, that's so important. It's really easy to get bored in class, but that didn't happen.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30.
Okay, so we've done a couple of charts. Let's have a look at the findings. I'll put up the first chart.
This is your overall view of the usefulness of the course.
And as you can see, only a small percentage of students didn't feel it was useful.
Which is good.
Yeah, everyone else had a positive view of the course. And more than half of us, that's about 60%, thought it was very useful.
Which, well, as this is the first time the course has been run, I guess this is a strong recommendation for it to take place again next year.
The next chart shows how useful you felt each part of the course was.
So, just to remind you, there was the speed reading component. That came out top.
No surprise there, really.
On the other hand, giving talks was, well, we all like talking, but it's not something we have to do that often.
Yeah, So that was the least useful. Then the note-taking component you found to be quite useful, and you had a lot of comments about that.
Okay, so let's have a look at some of your comments. You said a lot about the activities, but the main comment seemed to be that the techniques we learned on the note-taking course helped us focus more in lectures.
Several people said that they daydream much less.
Yeah, have a longer attention span.
So that's the first benefit. The second is that students said they really appreciated the instruction on when to use a diagram to take notes.
Like many people, I'd never thought of this technique, but now I find it really helpful.
And it's much more fun.
Yeah. And then the last comment we wanted to mention was about the type of paper that we used in the note-taking sessions.
It seems obvious now that a wide margin down the side of the paper provides another area where you can add points that you've missed.
And that makes it a lot easier to read the notes afterwards.
Okay, so now we'll look at the results.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm going to introduce to you a special age in Britain, the Iron Age. People at that time, you may be surprised to hear that, seem close to the men and women of today, because archaeologists discovered that they tried to vary their diet, improve their homes, and follow fashions. The period known as the Iron Age lasted in Britain for about 800 years, from 750 BC to 43 AD. There had been several dramatic changes by the end of the Iron Age, including coinage, wheel-thrown pottery, etc. People had started to live in larger and more settled communities. Furthermore, because of the differences in climate and geography, someone living in Yorkshire or Ireland would have eaten different food, worn different clothing, and lived in different housing conditions from someone living in southern Britain. Caesar commented that Britain was a land of small farms, and this has been proven by the archaeological evidence. Since Iron Age society was primarily agricultural, it is safe to presume that the daily routine would have revolved around the maintenance of the crops and livestock. Small farmsteads were tended by and would have supported isolated communities of family or extended family size. They produced enough to live on and a little extra to exchange for commodities that the farmers were unable to provide for themselves. For those farms, harvested crops were stored in either granaries that were raised from the ground on posts or in bell-shaped pits 2 to 3 meters deep. Some 4,500 of these storage pits have been found within the hill fort interior at Danebury in Hampshire, and if they were all used to store crops, this would have essentially made the site one large fortified granary. Although the archaeological evidence shows that cattle and sheep would have been the most common farm animals, it is known that pigs were also kept. The animals would have aided the family, not only with heavy farm labour, in the case of the cattle, such as the ploughing of crop fields, but also as a valuable form of wool or hide and food products. Horses and dogs are also observed in the archaeological evidence from both faunal remains and artefacts. Horses were used for pulling 2- or 4-wheeled vehicles, carts, chariots, while dogs would have assisted in the herding of the livestock and hunting. Besides agriculture and stock raising, the architecture in Iron Age is also worth mentioning. A very well-preserved settlement has been discovered at the site of Chislester in Cornwall. It was made up of individual houses of stone, with garden plots. In Wessex, the typical building on a settlement would have been the large round house. All of the domestic life would have occurred within this. The main frame of the round house would have been made of upright timbers, which were interwoven with coppiced wood, usually hazel, oak, ash, or pollarded willow, to make wattle walls. This was then covered with a daub made of clay, soil, straw, and animal manure that would weatherproof the house. The roof was constructed from large timbers and densely thatched. The main focus of the interior of the house was the central open hearth fire. This was the heart of the house to provide cooked food, warmth, and light. Because its importance within the domestic sphere, the fire would have been maintained 24 hours a day. Beside the fire may have stood a pair of fire dogs, such as those found at Baldock in Herefordshire, or suspended above it a bronze cauldron held up by a tripod and attached with an adjustable chain. The ordinary basic cooking pots would have been made by hand, from the local clay, and came in varying rounded shapes, occasionally with simple incised decorations. As for eating, bread would have been an important part of any meal, and was made from wheat and barley. The dough would have then been baked in a simple clay-domed oven, of which evidence has been found in Iron Age houses. The barley and rye could also have been made into a kind of porridge. In addition to this, the grain was also fermented to make beer, and the surface foam that formed was scraped off and used in the bread-making process. The interior of the house was an ideal place for the drying and preservation of food. Smoke and heat from the constant fire would have smoked meat and fish, and would have dried herbs and other plants perfectly. Salt was another means of preserving meat for the cold winter months, but this was a commodity that could not be made at a typical settlement. Well, you can see that Iron Age people lived a decent life, didn't they? I'm going to introduce their culture and leisure time next time. Thank you.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
So guys, don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test and speaking, you get guesswork. Please guys, participate in everyday new IELTS listening and reading practice tests to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. For more IELTS material, visit my official website www.ieltsupdatesandrecentexams.com. The link is given below in the description. If you need PDF files of latest IELTS material, then please join my Telegram channel. So guys, please write your score below the comment section. Again, thanks for listening. God bless you all guys. Stay tuned, stay safe.